All right, guys. For those who don't know, Brennan Dunn is the CEO of Right Message, with which we've actually used them, before on several different projects. Really impressed with Brennan himself. Really impressed with Right Message. And Brennan really started his career as a freelance developer more than a decade ago. So after starting, scaling, and exiting an agency, he decided to start a software company, PlanScope. The software helps freelancers and agencies better manage their client projects. Now, while running PlantScope, Brennan started Double Your Freelancing, which is a training resource that helps freelancers and agencies learn how to earn more money and work better with clients. Boasting over 10,000 customers, the company created training courses, conferences, and a wealth of free information that's laser focused on helping freelancers become or better understand the business behind their businesses. Most recently, Brendan sold PlanScope in early 2016 and co-founded Right Message, which is a software company that helps bring on-site personalization to the masses. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you, Brennan.
I think I gave you the extended bio. But that's all good. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a blast from the past. I'm like, PlanScope. God, I haven't, that was years ago. But no, I think it does. A lot of what I'm going to be covering today is very focused on kind of my earlier life, back when I was running an agency, back when I was transitioning out of the agency to start a software company, which I couldn't have done without doing a lot of what I'm going to be covering today. So good setup overall. Yeah, but I do think I sent you the super long one. So I guess it's okay. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen if that's good, and we can just go from there.
Yeah, please do.
Cool. All righty. Now, I don't know how Zoom works with full screen. Will it be fine, or should I just make my keynote like really big?
No, I think it should just take over.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So unfortunately, these aren't widescreen slides. I forgot to set that thing in Keynote before I went and started doing these. So
that's perfectly fine. We all forgive you.
Awesome. All right. So what I want to be, this is going to be more, I have some slides, but I want this to be really conversational in the sense that I'm going to be talking about things that I've been really drumming on for the better part of about 8 years now. And that's really a focus on pricing on value and selling a solution to your clients instead of focusing on what you do, what the going rate is for somebody like you, and so on. So what I'm going to present today is just something that I extracted out from material that I've been teaching for a while now. And it's really just kind of, if you get a new project lead, say today, how should you treat that project lead differently if you'd like to start pricing on, on a project base where you're selling a valuable solution instead of doing what I used to do, which was, all right, so you want a website built, how many pages do you want? Do we do it on WordPress, something else? My going rate is X, as you see on the screen. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to kind of transition away from both the mindset of a hourly or time-based freelancer to more a consultant who's pricing on value. So to go even further back in the past, I started consulting back in about 2007, 2006, 2007, late 2006, part-time. And then in 2008, I went full-time as a freelancer. And when I started consulting, it was while I was doing my day job, right? So I was full-time as a software developer. I had a friend from college who had a friend who ran a startup, and they needed some help with Ruby on Rails. So back then, there weren't a lot of freelance Ruby on Rails developers. So I kind of threw my hat in the ring and said I'd help. I didn't know what to charge. And I think that having talked to so many freelancers over the years, a lot of us really don't know what we should charge, like what's fair, what can the market handle. There's a lot of these really stupid calculators out there that let you plug in all these different things and it'll spit out a hourly rate. That's how I started. I looked at my salary, which was a flat 100,000 as a senior developer. And I read online that you work like 2,000 hours a year. So I just divided that by 2,000 and got 50. Sounded okay. So that was my very uninformed method of pricing myself. And the interesting thing is, you see a lot of these kind of calculators, and this is just a kind of it's not a, what are those things when you get a mortgage? Those kind of charts that they spit out for your payments. reminds me of that, right? It's just what you see in front of you now is a spreadsheet that's literally saying what your hourly rate should be depending on your annual salary. And I see a lot of new freelancers and even a lot of experienced freelancers who pretty much do something like this. They figure out what is their baseline cost to exist. And it's probably something commensurate to the lifestyle they had when they were salaried. So the way that they go about coming up with what do they charge? They basically use some table like this. And, I think it's one of these things where a lot of us are very safe knowing what we do, right? Like we're very comfortable and confident as a coder, as a designer, as a marketer. So if a potential client were to push back and say, why should I pay you $50 an hour? Well, we can just say, well, I was a senior developer, at this company and I made this much a year. And that's about what, we can kind of point to a table like this as validation. And I think that's the issue that I think a lot of us struggle with is how do we break free of that? How do we get away from being this commoditized, in my case, seller of code, to being something else, to being something more valuable, to having like Sarah was talking about in the last talk, to having this really nice backlog of future work where people are looking at you as a specialist, as this expert, and so on and so forth. So my own backstory, I mentioned in 2008, I went full-time as a freelancer. I didn't last that long. I eventually kind of slipped into running an agency because I got a string of really good referrals that all seemed to hit at the same time. Before I knew it, I had a team of 11 employees. We had transitioned away from contract-based, meaning I wasn't paying them as independent contractors. Instead, I hired them all. And we had an office here in downtown Norfolk, Virginia. And the thing that took me a very long time to figure out was that I was convinced that people were coming to us and hiring us because they wanted code written. They wanted a minimal viable product built for their product, for their, some app or something, or they needed some extra hands to be thrown at a software problem. I was looking at ourselves as a Ruby on Rails agency, just like I looked at myself before this as a freelance developer. And what I thought people were paying for was code. They were paying for, pay me $50 an hour and I will bang on my keyboard and write code, at that rate, right? What took a very long time, and I think the only reason that it actually stuck with me and that I realized this was when we started to grow, I wasn't as involved day to day. I was more of the salesperson in chief. I had to keep our team busy. And the thing that I quickly learned was that in our area, first off, no one was looking for Ruby on Rails. It was too new. Secondly, our area was full, like the people we were meeting at networking events and so on, they weren't looking for code. They had problems that needed to be solved, but a lot of them didn't really know that, they needed code written or anything like that. And I know it sounds enterprisey and kind of cheesy to say, but what people really wanted was they wanted a solution. They wanted a problem fixed. And in their mind, the reason that getting a coder or hiring a coder or coding agency could help fix that problem. So it wasn't until I removed myself from the weeds and really was positioned between my team and the clients that we worked with that I really started to realize the importance and why was it people were spending tens of thousands of dollars on us? Was it for code or was it for something else? So that was the big kind of mindset shift, I guess. And I think a lot of us eventually get to this point where we realize this. We realize, why is it our clients pay us? Why is it that they're really willing to part with their hard-earned money and look at us as this investment? And then we start to think, and really the good consultants, the one who are, pricing on not good as in technically good, but good as in very successful, always in demand and so on, start to realize that what it is clients want is they want their problem solved. And the thing that they do is just a means to an end. So it took me a while to kind of get there. But when we finally got there, I mean, this was our team's this is my effective hourly rate starting back late 2006. And then you can see kind of the effective hourly rate kind of spiked pretty quickly. What ended up happening in late 2011 was we stopped looking at ourselves as software development people. We stopped looking at ourselves as we sell software development, we sell coding, we sell web programming. And instead, we really started to say, how can we figure out why this person came to us this morning and said, hey, I've heard good things. Can we talk? I have a project that I need some help with. And then we changed the entire way we sold. We changed the entire way, we did things and so on. And I know when you look at this, I know I tend to be super skeptical. I would look at this and say, oh God, this is going to sound like, when you look at those weight loss commercials or whatever, and, it's like, this was me and then bam, this happened and then boom, like, shoots up. All I'm going to be covering from here on out is just kind of how to think of yourself differently in a way that will allow you to sell a better product. And that's all I'm talking about is that inflection point wasn't because we got really good and scammy at selling or anything stupid like that. Instead, we figured out how we could sell a better product that delivered a more valuable result. And then we just charged more for that result. Hence why our effective hourly rate went up a bit. Now, one thing I do want to note too is in late 2011, we stopped selling time. We started fixed pricing everything or do iteration-based pricing, which I won't dig into too much. But that's why that inflection point happened as it did, is because we changed our entire approach. That's what I'm going to be focusing on, again, in this presentation. So it worked for us. We got some nice in 2011 as we make the shift. We got some nice newspaper coverage. And again, I just wanted to put this here because I was super proud when I got a newspaper. Even though it was a local paper, I was like, wow, I'm in the paper. That's cool. So that's why I put the slide here. All right. So what I want to talk about is, how has this different approach affected myself, both career-wise, but also financially? So I don't do much consulting anymore. Right now I'm running two companies, one of which is Right Message and the other is W Freelancing. But I did do a consulting project somewhat recently, and in applying basically exactly what I'm going to be covering today, I mean, the effective hourly rate on that project was literally ridiculous. It was $89,000 total budget. Took about 2.5 weeks to fulfill. That's like a $40,000 a week rate or something like that. And again, why I show this isn't to gloat or anything like that. It's not to. What I really just want to show you is I'm going to be talking about how I went about with that project, being able to tell them you would be silly not to pay me what I'm asking here to do this project for you. Technically, what I did for them was a lot of copywriting, some web development, a little design, but more outsourced design, and also wiring a lot of things up in marketing automation software. What I want to really stress, again, I've seen presentations like this before, and I know that a lot of people are probably thinking like, I'm not alpha enough, or I'm not like smooth enough or anything like that. I'm not 10 times better at, technically what I do than I used to be. I'm not, I'm not better networked. I mean, I am better networked at this point, but that had nothing to do with that, the kind of results that I'm going to be talking about. It's really, again, I was able to sell a different product, a better product, when I started focusing on my clients instead of focusing on what I'm technically good at. Cool. All right. So what the big shift that I've been hinting at for a while is that I stopped selling a commodity. And the issue with commoditization is if I market myself as a freelance developer, if I market myself as a freelance writer or whatever else, you end up naturally commoditizing what you do. You make the impetus is on the client to think, well, what is the going rate? What is the right price to pay? Somebody to swing the coding hammer for me or the marketing hammer for me or something like that. I've got a picture of the Dust Bowl back in the early 1930s in the US. This is what happens when you, not to be too dire, but this is, I like to think of this because when even though these are family farmers who were growing and selling corn and so on, when their livelihood went away, it really hurt them. And again, I'm not going to dive too deep into the history behind this, but what I'm trying to get at here is that you don't want to be a commodity. If you want to really build a great business, a scalable business, one where you're detaching yourself from the hours worked and really focusing on results for your clients, you need to stop thinking in terms of what it is you do, what is the going rate of somebody like you, and so on and so forth. So I just got off, like I said at the beginning of this, a 6-hour drive down from New Jersey back to Virginia. I passed by a lot of gas stations, and you notice a lot of gas stations tend to be kind of like there's one on one side of the street and another one on the other side of the street. And I've talked to a lot of freelancers, specifically ones who are US based, who what they often come to me with is, I want to charge, say, $100 an hour for whatever it is I do. But the problem is a lot of my clients are saying, well, I can go on upwork.com and there are people overseas who charge $8 an hour. Why should I, like, how do I do this? I'm really struggling to justify why I'm 10 times more. And the way I think about this and respond to this is exactly what I'm showing you on my screen right now, which is if I'm driving down the street and I'm coming back from New Jersey and I need to get gas, and the gas station on one side of the street is 100 a gallon, and on the other side of the street is 357 or whatever that says a gallon. Why would I ever not do the cheaper one? And I think that's the crux of the issue here, is that when you're selling yourself as this commoditized provider, you are intrinsically tied to the value of that commodity as priced in the market. So that's my kind of setup. Now I'll call this the double your freelancing rate framework. Again, this just is emerged out of or extracted out of a lot of the teaching I've done over the years. But what I want to focus the rest of our time on is just what can you actually do to stop selling yourself as a commodity. So it's pretty straightforward. Take some notes. I think this will be recorded, unless I was mistaken. So maybe you'll get a replay of this. But here's what it is. So first step is what I call Socratically getting to the root of the problem. So the universal truth is that if you get contacted out of the blue by somebody who, is via referral or finds your site and fills out the contact form or, whatever else, there is always a problem behind a project that's brought to you. So the first thing that I try to do is I try to figure out what is the trigger, what led them to that day contact you. Was it a specific event? Was it a series of events that culminated into this? And again, what I'm talking about now is all done through conversation. So what you want to be doing is when a new client comes to you, don't just default to thinking, all right, let's talk technicals, let's talk what they need, let's talk what they need technically. So don't default to things like the content management system or what theme you're going to use or this or that. Instead, you want to figure out, why are they here? Like, why did they come today to somebody like you? And when you do that, you're going to be able to figure out what was that initial trigger that brought them to you, right? So, this truth is that no client, and I assume a lot of you listening are web developers, but if you're not a web developer, say you do graphic design or whatever else, replace website with whatever it is you do. None of your clients have ever wanted a website or wanted a logo or wanted any of this stuff. And likewise, for those of you who do, say, digital products, no customers ever wanted a course. What people want is an outcome. They want a solution to their problems, right? So if you can find out, if you can use questioning, Socratic questioning, to say, client comes to you and says, hey, I've got a website. I heard you're good. Cool. I'd love to help you with that. So tell me a bit about what it is like. Why are you firing your old website? What led them to say, the website we have up currently is not doing it? Is, what is the root of this problem? Is it because maybe they feel like it's dated and it's hurting their reputation, and people are thinking, like, potential customers are thinking, God, this website's ugly. And, maybe that's when having people go to their competitors, or maybe it's they're wanting to, they're not hitting their revenue targets. And they're kind of putting the blame on their website, where really it might be maybe not enough people are coming to the website. Maybe the website's copy is really all off and it's really not a design problem. But it's up to you as a consultant to figure out why is it they're here and try to work with them to determine what it is causing them to effectively fire what they have now. So again, if you do website design and they already have an existing site and they come to you, they're firing if you think of the existing website as an employee, they're getting rid of that employee. So if you think that you just need to throw new skin on their current website and redesign it, well, who's to say it's not going to end up having that same problem? So it's up to us. We want to give our clients a better solution to figure out why is it they're here and what's at stake. So, after I figure out this trigger, I want to understand what's at stake if this goes unsolved. So here's the trigger. Here's the problem behind that trigger. And if this problem does not go away, what's at stake? Maybe they're not able to scale the way they wanted to. Maybe, again, they're not hitting their revenue targets, and that's impacting, measurably their business. So I know for a lot of people, it's uncomfortable to talk business with your clients because you assume your clients have it all figured out. Some clients have more figured out than others. But at the end of the day, your clients when they work with you, they want to make sure that you and them are in the exact same wavelength. So you can technically succeed in building a website, but you can be a total failure in building the wrong website. And I know that's not what we all want to hear, but at the end of the day, if a client is saying, I want to invest in a new website, we need to know, why did the old website fail, and what do we need to do differently, and how do we need to make this new website better and different so that the old problem doesn't exist? Because if the client has any hesitation or thought that the old website the problems with that might carry over to the new one, and all you're pitching them on is a web design, we'll do this many pages, blah, 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 all this stuff, they might think that they're going to get the same thing, and that's a big risky thing. So I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to rush through what I've got in store for you. But basically, that first step again is I want to encourage you to try to figure out, why is a client here. You need to understand, why are they here and what is at stake. And when you figure out what's at stake, you can then try to pinpoint or quantify the financial upside. So what if this problem goes away? What could happen? So the easiest way that I have to explain this is, I had a customer of mine, student of mine, who he was selling a redesign project to a rehabilitation clinic. So, they wanted a new website. And what he did, which is what I encourage you to do, is he tried to figure out, how could a new website impact their bottom line tangibly. So he started with how they made money. So he asked them, when you get a new patient at your clinic, what are they worth? The value of them was $30,000. So if you get a new patient in a bed, that's $30,000 on average for that clinic. He knew he couldn't control their pricing, so he worked backwards to try to figure out, how many leads does it take to get a new patient? So he asked them, he talked to them, and figured out that 1 in 10 leads that they got from their website or wherever turned into a patient. So lead is valued at $3,000. So he knew that his website could affect the amount of leads they got. So he sold them more leads. He was focused on, how can I build a website that is going to give them more people filling out this contact form, meaning every design element, everything on it, is going to be focused on getting the right people to fill out this form at $3,000 a pop. So when he quoted them, I think it was $18,000 for a simple marketing site, when others were charging, low single thousands, he won the project because he was focused on more leads and getting them more business. And, he was able to extrapolate, if you get one new lead a month times 12, that's 36,000 in net new revenue over the span of a year. That's the kind of thing that made them think, oh, I want this, right? Likewise, the other story I give is, I was working on my first video course, and I was shopping around and finding local editors, local videographers who could come and film it for me and edit it. And everyone was quoting me an hourly rate and so on. And then somebody on my email list emailed me and said, hey, I heard you're wanting to do a video course. Let me come in and direct it for you. Let me tell you when you're going off track, when you're going on a tangent, kind of like I am now. Let me help you focus in so that you can build the best video course for your students. So I'm in your target market. I will tell you when you're going off the rails. I will help you focus in on what needs to be covered. He quoted me $22,000, which was way higher than everyone else. But to me, he was the lowest risk, because he knew what I needed. He knew what I wanted was more sales of this course and more referral potential from the people who bought the course. And he focused on selling me that, instead of saying, I will go into Adobe Premiere and, edit stuff together for you, and so on and so forth. So if you can, once you've understood why a project's on the table, if you can try to figure out how you affect it financially, that's what you want to be focused on, is trying to quantify that upside. Okay, so after you've done that, after you've tried to figure out what's at stake and what is it worth for them, what you're going to want to do then is to anchor your costs against this upside. So the mistake people make is, when they write a proposal, it's like an order form. Here's what I'll do, here's the price, here's how many hours I think it'll take. My hourly rate is X, so that means it'll cost you about this much money. The problem is, when you put your price out in a vacuum, what ends up happening is your potential client needs to determine, is this higher or lower than what I expected? Is this the going rate? And that is why They end up shopping around and stalling and getting other quotes from other people like you and so on and so forth. And the thing that I'm going to encourage you to do, because this is all I do now and it works really well, and this isn't unique to me or anything like that. A lot of people do this, but the thing I'd encourage you to do is to anchor your costs against that upside. So when I quoted that 89,000 for that recent project that I showed you earlier on, the upside of that was, here's my plan for recouping, I think it was 150,000 of that cost within 6 months. So I laid out a very clear plan of how I do that. And then, from then on out, over the first year, here's what they could expect based on the data they've given me. And I'm very upfront and open, saying, I need to know your numbers. I need to know what's at stake. So if I come in and I start doing multiplication against your existing funnel and your existing metrics, I need to make sure that what I quote you is going to be less, ideally substantially less than what you're realistically probably going to make. So when I quote somebody, my focus is always on the upside. It's always on, here's the upside. Let them see that first. Let them see the potential first. And this is realistic potential. This is data that they've given you, that you've done some elementary school math on, to come up with a potential upside, so that when you introduce your own pricing, you know that they've already seen this future, and they naturally look at your price as an investment. It's, who wouldn't spend $1 to get 10? And again, I know there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear around doing this. You fear, what if I don't hit these numbers? What if I don't do whatever else? And again, I want you to be focusing on just the fact that you're asking these questions and you're talking to your clients about this stuff shows them, signals to them that you understand what's at stake, and that that if you figure out what that goal is, you can end up developing a better project for them, versus just, saying, I'll build something new. I'll build something, use my creativity to build something from scratch or whatever else. So that's the third step. And the fourth and final step, in the slide, this is a problem with full screen. I have no idea what slide is next. So the old kind of like, I guess, quote, I forgot where I heard this or what the context is. I think it's about Rolex, was, how do you make an $800 watch look cheap? Well, you put it up against a $8,000 watch or something like that, right? So again, I butchered the quote, but you probably get where I'm going with this. That is what we want to do, is we want to psychologically anchor our costs as a lower cost entry point into a higher value outcome. So again, lower cost entry point, what you charge, anchored against a higher value outcome. Okay. This isn't here, Tim. So this is from our project a while back. This is a $20,000 1 week on-site project that I did a few years back. And, what was great about this was, again, the sales cycles are so much tighter, because again, they're not getting surprised with a price that they need to weigh and figure out, is this right or is this wrong, and so on. I'm simply selling an investment that is tied to the data that they've given me through quantifying that financial upside and everything else. Okay, so the final thing that I want to leave you with is, once you've done this, once you figured out, here's what my cost will be, here's how I anchor it to this upside that I've worked collaboratively with the would-be client to figure out. When you present it, when you pitch it, your proposal should be more like a sales letter than a order form. And again, I think it's a mistake when people use, not to name any names, but there's software products out there that are invoicing tools that also have quote tools. And the problem is, people will go in and line item out, here's what I want to do, and then it'll tally up a estimated, cost or something like that. The problem is, when we're not selling roofing, right? Like, most of us are selling creative outcomes for clients. And if you want to be seen as an ally, as a partner of your clients, as a creative professional, and not just an order taker who is going to be selling some commoditized off-the-shelf thing, the same way you would sell, say, toilet paper in bulk, you need to move away from itemized proposals. So what I would encourage you to do is focus on, reiterate what the problem is. So step one, we figured out what the problem is. So when you write a proposal, rehash that problem, talk about why this problem is impacting them, so on and so forth. Present that financial upside. Present your offering, how you offer to solve it. So the offer is just the bridge between the problem and the solution. So you might have different offers that you present. I didn't get a chance to dive into this too much today, but you definitely want to have different options that you give them. So they choose, you want them to compete against you. So do they want to do option A or B versus hire you or not hire you? But when you pitch somebody, when you propose something to them, it should be nothing new, nothing radically innovative or anything like that, in the sense that they haven't heard this already through a discussion with you. So that's why I'm so focused on, if you can, try to get into as many discussions as you can with your would-be clients, so that you can figure out what's at stake, what do they need help, why do they really need this thing fixed, and what potential is there using their own numbers if this problem gets solved, and then present that, write that as your proposal, make it the sales letter, focus on the problem, reiterate the solution, talk about the offer, anchor that offer against that upside, and so on and so forth. And again, I don't have time now to dig into all the details about proposal writing and everything else, but I wanted to just give you kind of a 10,000 foot perspective of how I advise freelancers to get away from commoditized hourly billing, to be focusing on value, to be focusing on outcomes with your clients. And again, it's all about just selling a better product to your clients instead of, I hear a lot of advice that basically boils down to, oh, you're worth it, just 2x your rates and do that or whatever else. And I mean, I think what needs to happen is we want to sell better solutions to our clients. And the way to do that is to figure out what's at stake and to develop what it is you're doing against these needs, versus just saying, I'm a awesome dev, I'm an awesome designer, I'm going to make a gorgeous looking site, even though that could be completely off the mark in terms of what the clients need. So last slide, really quick summary. What's changed for me? What's changed for students of mine who have implemented basically something like this? Your clients get better results because you're focusing on the right stuff. You're not building them the wrong stuff, even though you've technically built something correct. I'm also a partner, not a vendor. So I think this is the biggest thing that I like, is when clients get this, from the beginning, I've been positioned not as a vendor of design or coding or writing or anything like that. I'm truly a partner of theirs. More leads convert to clients in the end of the day, because I'm not competing on price. I'm not saying, yeah, I'm one of many different developers / writers / marketing automation people. And the income's significantly better. So sorry for the rush talk, everyone. I know I wanted to cram as much as I could into the time that we had allocated. So hopefully this has been helpful, though.
Yeah, great job, Brennan. I appreciate it very much.